Okay, here we go. Another emergency live here for BAM on YouTube. If you're just joining me over from my Instagram live, welcome over. We'll let some of those Instagram folks jump over here. An emergency live press conference here for BAM. By the way, BAM had it first. We had this information first today on the hot sheet. I was very explicit in saying that this was a rumor this morning on the hot sheet. I made sure to cover my tracks on that because at that point it was just a rumor. Now, what was a rumor is official. Bob Goldberg is out as National Association of Realtor CEO. We're bringing it to you first here on BAM, as we have all week on breaking news. Jody, let's go. Great to have you in. Let me know as you jump into this live chat. Are you in between a showing? Are you in between a listing appointment? Are you in the car? Are you in the office? Are you on the move? Which market are you jumping in to this BAM breaking news from? We had the information first on the hot sheet. I said it was a rumor this morning on the hot sheet. There was a National Association of Realtors emergency meeting this morning. I was talking to a prop tech CEO on the phone, an unnamed prop tech CEO, not the one that gave me the rumor, by the way. It was not from a prop tech CEO that gave me the rumor this morning that Bob Goldberg was out. But I said, hey, did you hear emergency meeting over at NAR? And he laughs. He goes, does an emergency meeting at NAR have the same luster anymore? Or is that just a meeting at NAR? Is every meeting right now at National Association of Realtors, since the sexual harassment situations and obviously with the lawsuit information the last couple of weeks, isn't every meeting now just an emergency meeting? But he had not heard about it. Very few had heard about the rumors. Okay. And then it was announced officially, the rumors that we shared on the hot sheet this morning. We go live with BAM every single day. We do the hot sheet every single day, 9:30 on the East, 6:30 on the West. And we broke that rumor this morning that Bob Goldberg would be stepping down as NAR CEO as early as this month, or certainly before the end of the year. Now, remember, earlier in the year, Bob Goldberg announced he would be stepping down in the future, but that wouldn't come until next year. Granted, these CEOs of National Association of Realtors are incentivized to milk out the end as much as they can. They get really big packages at the end of their term. Okay. They get to, for about 2 years, they get to collect big salaries, as much as $3 million for some past CEOs. And so Bob Goldberg's going to be no different. He is now stepping down on November the 20th. Okay. November the 20th, he's going to be stepping down. And breaking just now is Nikia Wright has been introduced as the interim CEO. Maybe we can fix that, Bobby, so I can share this with everybody. Bob Goldberg steps down as NAR CEO. Nikia Wright announced as the interim CEO. So just announced today, she will step in as interim CEO starting on November the 20th, 2023. Bob Goldberg, who's the current CEO, he had planned to retire at the end of 24. He will now step down at this position effective on November 20th. He will serve as executive consultant to help the transition. He's obviously going to be involved in the new lawsuit that Michael Ketchmark, the lead attorney for the plaintiffs on the Missouri lawsuit, has filed and named NAR. He's going to have to be a key witness there. He's going to have to come back and be involved in that. So it makes sense that he's going to be part of this executive consultant to help the transition. We're going to get into who Nikia Wright is, what her experience in real estate is, what her experience and her background is. We're going to get to that in just a second. But when we did our live stream on Tuesday after the verdict of the Missouri class action lawsuit broke, and I took calls from all of you on What's the next steps? What's your reaction? What's your feeling in the moment on the class action lawsuit? Many of the feelings in the comments and on the phone calls that we received, many of the feedback was initial reaction, Bob Goldberg, CEO of NAR, has to go. NAR leadership has to go. So now NAR, National Association of Realtors, has responded, and they are advancing Bob Goldberg's pending retirement to 18 days from now. It will now be on November 20th, 2023. Bob Goldberg will be out. Nikia Wright will be in. Bob Goldberg will go to an executive consultant role. Nikki Wright will come in on November 20th and be the interim CEO. Thank you, Bobby. So who is Nikia Wright? Wright is the CEO of the Sun Times, Chicago Sun Times, and the co-founder of Sonic Messenger, a SaaS startup. Prior to her time at Chicago Sun Times, she was a strategy and business transformation consultant who advised companies and organizations on a variety of operational, financial, and performance improvement matters. This is according to National Association of Realtors release. Tracy Casper, the current NAR president, who's been under fire for her role in maybe covering up potentially some of the sexual harassment allegations. Tracy Casper, we are delighted to welcome Nikia as interim CEO. Her deep experience driving organizational transformation positions her to advance our strategy, our vision, culture initiatives. I look forward to working with her in partnership with our leadership team and staff to continue strengthening our organization. I'd love to know how Nikia Wright was selected. There's a quote from her, though. Speaking of her appointment as interim CEO, Wright said, NAR advocates for and empowers people who help families across America realize the dream of home ownership. It's the dream that apparently, after Redfin's comments this week, they hate. The American dream. I am honored to join the organization at this important moment when the opportunity to make a difference in the evolving real estate landscape has never been greater. I look forward to getting to work and partnering closely with NAR's talented staff in the months ahead. First question, should more go? Should there be more shoes to drop? Should more of NAR's executive team be out? Who should be out? Who should be out from the National Association of Realtors? If you were picking and choosing, we've got the CEO out. Is Nikia Wright the right person? She's already changed her LinkedIn profile. Interim CEO of National Association of Realtors. She's based out of Chicago, Illinois. Why is that interesting? It's where NAR is. NAR has a building in Chicago. NAR has a building in Washington, D.C. So, prior relationship with NAR and Nikia Wright? Maybe. Don't know. That's me just assuming. That's me guessing. Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's not important. According to her LinkedIn, Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth. Startup innovator, recognized leader in the media industry. It's interesting that they went out and made a media hire. Okay. She stepped down from what I can find online, or departed. Not sure if it was, I don't know what was the departure, but this is just from the Chicago Sun Times, where she was the CEO. She departed as Sun Times CEO in January of this year. She had joined the paper back in 2017, leading it through new digital efforts and its conversion to nonprofit status as part of Chicago Public Media. So there's a tie-in to NAR. She helped Chicago Sun Times go into nonprofit status. Chicago Sun-Times apparently went from a for-profit company into nonprofit status as part of Chicago Public Media. She helped that transition as CEO, it sounds like. She has had leading executive roles at Chicago Sun-Times since 2017, managing ownership changes and a shift towards digital operations, now leaving the paper. This is back in January 2023. Chicago Public Media, which owns Sun-Times, announced her departure on Monday. Wright issued a message to staff members saying she will announce future plans soon. Now we know of her future plans. Probably she didn't know of these future plans back then. Bob Goldberg wasn't supposed to step down as NAR CEO until 2024. I couldn't exit without thanking you for trusting me to lead the storied institution for the past 5 years. For me, from the start, my success would only be defined as leaving the organization in better shape than I found it. You gave me the space and the support needed to do that. Please continue, lean in, and strengthen the model for local news. So her background of the last 5 years, local news, 2017 to January of 2023, this year, she was a local news operator for the Chicago Sun-Times as their chief executive. Interesting hire by NAR. They're going with a media CEO as interim CEO. Now, when I broke the news on the hot sheet today that this rumor was flying around and that this rumor was coming from the inside, an emergency, I said it on the hot sheet today, an emergency meeting over at NAR. Every meeting's an emergency meeting now, but an emergency meeting today, this was according to NAR staff, that there was going to be a Bob Goldberg out as CEO announcement as early as today. We've got Jason. It sounds like he's calling from planet Mars. What is he calling from? A spaceship? Is he with Elon? Jason, what a ring we just had there for you.
What's going on?
Jason Haber, who founded the NAR Accountability Project. I'd love your thoughts on Nikia Wright. From our information on some rumors that we received when we talked about this on the hot sheet this morning was that the new CEO might have been Margie Grant, who is the chief executive officer of the Florida Realtors. That obviously did not happen as of now. What we have now is Nikia Wright, who is the former CEO of the Chicago Sun-Times, now announced as interim CEO of National Association of Realtors. Her LinkedIn profile already is updated to state just that. We have Jason Haber, founder and leader for the NAR Accountability Project. Jason, your thoughts on this interim CEO position for Nikia Wright?
Well, good to be back and chatting on this very historic moment here for the industry. First of all, I say that we wish Nikia Wright the best of luck as the new CEO. Over the past few weeks, really a few months or a few years, we've seen the worst of NAR, and it's our hope she can bring out the best of it. The other thing I want to, you and I were hearing from the same sources about who the new CEO may be. That still may prove out to be accurate from what I'm hearing. But what I wanted to tell you is the calls and emails, so I'm not going to share the details of them, I'm going to keep them private, of women who've been victims of sexual harassment, rape, assault, have been reaching out. And this day is really for them, because I think they finally feel not only a sense of relief, but that they're being heard. And, for me, it's overwhelming to get those messages, and they're very thankful to me, but really it's all about them, not about what we've done.
It seems to me that this was less about that, where I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that this immediate action by NAR would be less in response to the sexual harassment allegations, which they spent, the last couple of years, forcing women into NDAs from the information that we have, as opposed to the failed defense of the Missouri class action lawsuit this week. It seems to be more an immediate knee-jerk reaction to that of this week than what you're referencing, and I'm in agreement with everything you said. You said it beautifully, but would you say this is a knee-jerk reaction to the failure in the class action lawsuit as opposed to his inadequate performance through the sexual harassment issues?
So tidal waves have a cascading effect, and I think that here they were under assault from multiple fronts. They were embarrassed on multiple fronts. Understandably, the timing of this, of course, tied to the lawsuit. But I've argued that the failures with the lawsuit and the failures to address the sexual harassment problems are actually inextricably linked to the greater failures within the organization. And those failures have just been laid bare. And so, I think it's all gets sort of put together. And so that's why there's a feeling that, maybe now there'll be institutional change, which will be better for sort of the women who have been put in difficult positions within the organization in the past. And so with new leaders coming in, that the changes won't be just regarding how we're going to approach the appeal process, but how it relates to the industry. The one thing that I will also tell you, which is fascinating, which no one else has reported on yet. If you look at the New York Times story that ran, I guess now 48 hours ago, it was the number one commented story in that 24-hour period of the New York Times. More than the Israeli-Gaza war, more than what's happened in Washington, over 1,200 people commented on that article. That article hit a real nerve. And the problem with the comments is they're almost all negative. Trashing realtors, trashing our industry. And that's the problem, as you've wisely pointed out. They've wasted, $46 million on nonsense. Like, there needs to be a new public awareness campaign now more than ever about how important it is what we do, how hard we work, what it's not about what they see on reality TV, but what reality is like for us. And I think that education campaign has to happen to help turn around public perception of our industry.
And so do you believe that this is why Nikia Wright, it makes sense, or this is why they made sense of her as the interim CEO now for National Association of Realtors? This will start on November 20th as Bob Goldberg will exit out as CEO. He will go to executive consultant to lead Nikia Wright through, or help Nikia Wright through her transition. She has been named interim CEO, so she hasn't been given the full title yet. Maybe that will or will not come in the future. But her experience of leading Chicago Sun-Times for the last 5 years as their CEO, her media experience, is that why she makes sense now to come in and clean up the image of National Association of Realtors? We're talking to Jason Haber, the founder and leader of the NAR Accountability Project. Your thoughts on why she makes sense as the interim CEO?
So I don't know. I didn't know anything about her before the appointment, but I do have folks in Chicago. As you'll remember, I led a protest press conference in Chicago last month. And the people that I spoke to on the ground there have respect for her. They say she's a really smart person, very savvy and sophisticated. So my bet is that they wanted to go outside the box with someone who has roots in Chicago, because Chicago is so important to NAR being that they're located there. And that someone who can sort of present maybe a new messaging about the industry to the public. And certainly she would have the kind of background and experience where that seems warranted right now. Because they're broken as a culture, which needs to be fixed, but also how the public perceives them is so bad. And that negatively affects our business and what we do for a living. So perhaps she can come in and refresh that. That's what's really needed. And that's if you look at those Times comments, they're scary. And hopefully someone like this can help change public perception about our industry.
Jason, do you get in your contacts in Chicago, and you led an incredible protest there? We're going to link up the NAR Accountability Project. I'm assuming you're going to reach out to Nikia about the Accountability Project at some point.
Already have.
Yep, you're already on the ball. I love it. Do you get the sense that she's been involved with the National Association of Realtors for some time this year? Do you get the sense that this has been in the works? What's her relationships like?
If it was all behind the scenes. So my contacts in Chicago, they were completely surprised by this. So it's possible behind the scenes, but certainly nothing public facing, or they would have known.
So this comes out of left field to everybody that has knowledge of it. I have nobody that has told me that this is something that's in the works. I think you would, in your time in Chicago, would be much closer to the story. Bob Goldberg obviously has stepped down. If you're just joining us, as NAR CEO, steps down. I go with air quotes, obviously. Nikia Wright announced as the interim CEO. Nikia Wright, former CEO of Chicago Sun-Times. Jason, any thoughts on why they would go with someone with legacy media background, Chicago Sun-Times, instead of digital media background? They obviously, NAR needs a new image. You referenced the New York Times article, which was the most commented article of the week. The comments were not good. The image is not great. NAR has done nothing to move the image forward for hardworking real estate professionals across this country. Why go legacy media as opposed to digital media?
I think she has institutional clout within Chicago. For those, I don't know if anyone listening is in Chicago. Chicago, the Sun-Times is a really important organ of Chicago sort of politics and policy. And so it may not be as well known outside of Metro Chicago, but within it's important. And so it may not be a national paper, but it's still important for the region. So my guess is that she comes in on day one with a certain amount of credibility that she brings to the table, and that was probably important. I don't know enough about her background, though. I wouldn't necessarily assume that someone in the quote unquote print news business doesn't have a good background in new media. Like we're seeing right now, a lot of big newspapers, the New York Times being the best example, how they've completely revamped the paper as a digital first operation and how they're flourishing now. There are people who are in sort of old line media who also bring new world sensibilities, and maybe that's her too. So that's what my guess would be.
Great point, Jason. Jason Haber is leading the National Association of Realtor Accountability Project. Let's pin it in the comments for those that are interested in the project. Jason Haber, he's led a protest in Chicago just a month ago. He's been on the charge since the sexual harassment stories have come to light during the summer of this year. Jason also has already reached out to interim CEO, just named moments ago, Nikia Wright, I'm assuming, Jason, work with her and let her know about the accountability project?
100%. Reached out in friendship, saying we've always been here to help and we'll continue to do so, and love to work with you and speak with you. It's basically the tone of what I messaged to her.
Okay. So Jason now is reaching out on behalf of the industry. If you want to support what he's doing at the NAR Accountability Project, we'll link that below. Jason, thank you so much for joining us here on this breaking news.
You got it. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Follow Jason on his Instagram. We'll link that up below as well. Jason Haber on Instagram, AHBER. All right. So if you're just joining us, Nikia Wright has now been announced as the interim CEO. Nikia Wright comes from a background of being the CEO at the Chicago Sun-Times the last 5 years. Why does this make sense for NAR? It comes out of left field for almost everybody that Nikia Wright, a name not known to the real estate industry, maybe certainly not those that are outside of Chicago. She led a local media company there, the Chicago Sun-Times, helped transition the Sun-Times from being a profit organization into nonprofit status. So just on the face here, it makes sense that NAR needs a new image. So let's bring somebody in with media experience of telling a story or getting information out. Okay, so she checks that box. She's in Chicago, where National Association of Realtors is located. She checks that box. What's the other box she checks that I've been passionate about? And this is why, and Jason's right, we need to give Nikia our support. If you're a member of NAR, you need to hope that she can go in there and have the authority to clean house. Hopefully she's not going into a deep swamp over at NAR. Hopefully she's got the ability and the authority to clean house where she sees fit and where she needs to, because I've been passionate about having an outsider come in. Now, they only named her interim CEO. Obviously, a quick knee-jerk reaction on this move to get Bob Goldberg out now, as opposed to his proposed date of the end of 2024. Knee-jerk reaction to the verdict in the Missouri class action lawsuit, to the Michael Ketchmark announcing new nationwide lawsuit with NAR on it. A lot of pressure, not only since the sexual harassment allegations that were happening at NAR, but a lot of pressure now with their failure to provide a proper defense, with their ignorance in the way that they talk to the jury. NAR's lead attorney spoke down to the jury. They weren't able to connect from a everyday average Joe standpoint. Nikia right now coming in as interim CEO maybe has the ability to do just that. She led Chicago Sun-Times for 5 years, took them into nonprofit status, seems well-liked, seems like a highly respected professional in Chicago. That's important that she's in Chicago because that's where NAR is. Now, the rumor that we had this morning on the hot sheet, which BAM had this rumor that Bob Goldberg was out before anybody. You can't find a real estate media company that had it before us. We had it on the hot sheet this morning. I actually had a CEO of a media company reach out to me. He's like, are you just making this up or is this the real deal? Right. It wasn't the guy from The Real Deal, by the way, but it was another one. And it ended up being the real thing. Now, we were wrong on what we heard, that Margie Grant, who's the chief executive officer for the Florida Realtors, would be named CEO. She's chief executive for the largest association in Florida. We had heard a rumor that she would be now announced as the National Association of Realtors CEO. That didn't happen. Nikia Wright, somebody from the outside. If given the option, I'm all for Nikia Wright coming in as interim CEO, somebody from the outside in, as opposed to the inside up, which would have been the latter, which would have been the Florida executive CEO that I just mentioned. Nikia Wright comes in from her experience at Chicago Sun-Times. She comes in knowing the players, it sounds like, from what we understand, in the Chicago landscape. She certainly comes from outside of the industry. Her quote, I'll just go through her quote again, speaking on her appointment as interim CEO. Remember, this is interim, so Margie could still get it down the road. But this is her released statement. NAR advocates for and empowers people who help families across America realize the dream of home ownership. It's the dream that Redfin hates, by the way. I'm adding that in there. They've made that clear this week in their comments about the industry. I'm honored to join the organization at this important moment when the opportunity to make a difference in the evolving real estate landscape has never been greater. She's right about that. I look forward to getting to work and partnering closely with NAR's talented staff in the months ahead. So her initial statement is NAR has talented staff. And I would say there's probably a lot of talented people on staff. They have a big staff. They have the biggest board ever created. I don't know about the board. She didn't mention the board being talented, but she said there's talented staff. NAR staff is where we got the information that we had first on BAM, that this was going to happen today. We had it in front of every real estate media company. We said it on the hot sheet this morning that Bob Goldberg would be out as early as today. That announcement has now been made official by NAR. Nikia Wright is in. But I want to know, and I hope that this is true, that Nikia Wright is going to have the authority to go in there, and when she finds staff or certainly executive leadership, whether they've been there 15 years or not, that she's going to have the ability to go in there and clean house. She's coming from the outside in. I know she's interim CEO. So is she, don't take this controversially, but NAR is certainly looking for a new image right now. They only named her interim CEO. Is she only a face? Or are they going to let her go in there and clean up the swamp that is National Association of Realtors? Are they going to give her the authority? Or are they just naming Nikia the interim CEO so that she can hand the baton off to who the rumored CEO was, which would be somebody from the inside, like a Margie Grant, who is highly decorated, would be highly, I don't know if she'd be effective or not, but highly qualified based on her resume. She's the chief executive officer for the Florida Realtors. I'm sure she's great. Don't know her. But she would be somebody from the inside up. I don't like inside up. I want upheaval of NAR. I want new vision. I want new leadership. I want leadership from outside in. So I'm kind of like, this is interesting. Somebody with media experience. Is that just a bridge, though, to try to remake the image? A bridge, a face, or whatever you want to call it, until they get one of the folks from the good old Boy and Girl Network back in as CEO, as traditionally has been the case for NAR? Or does she have authority and the power and the ability to impact and make change? Has NAR giving her full authority to go ahead and do that? Okay. This is what the salaries are for some of these folks. You can find this on nowbam.com. NAR compensation for the fiscal year ending December 2021. Bob Goldberg was at $2.5 million. Love to know what Nikia's salary is. We won't get that, unfortunately, for a couple. They don't have to disclose it. They have to disclose it as a nonprofit, but we don't have to really find out about it for like a year and a half, 2 years out. She could be gone by then. She's just the interim. How about some of these guys who have been here forever? Katie Johnson, General Counsel and Chief Member Experience Officer. How's your experience going? And how's the General Counsel going for you with NAR? Should Katie Johnson be next to go? Should Nikia Wright have the right as CEO and the authority to say, Katie, your $1 million a year salary as General Counsel and Chief Member Experience Officer is over. You haven't served the members. You lost your shot at the biggest defense opportunity ever by fumbling that in Kansas City. You couldn't come through. You had years to prepare since 2019. You didn't do it. You went in there arrogantly. You talked down to the jury from NAR's standpoint. Member experience. Let me know in the comments. How's your experience at NAR? She's the Chief Member Experience Officer. These salaries go up every year, by the way. Her salary ending December 2021 was $912,224. Katie Johnson's been there a long time. She's somebody from the inside for a long time. Lawrence Yun, chief economist, who was a witness during the trial. He makes $700,000-800,000 a year. Been there for well over a decade. You got the chief financial officer. This name's been there a long time. This name's been there a long time. The chief marketing and communications officer. I'd imagine that Nikia Wright should at least have authority over that. I'm curious. They've got Bob Goldberg going into senior consultants, executive senior consultant to help Nikia with the transition. I'm curious if he's going to be getting paid when you look at those salaries, the article that we had on, you can just search it on your desktop on nowbam.com. How much is NAR paying its executives and independent contractors? And you can go back through all the years and see that when they have a former CEO, they stay on the books for like 2 years, making millions of dollars. Is Bob, as the senior consultant, going to be in the background pulling the strings? Or does Nikia Wright have full authority to come in and clean house? She's now the interim CEO. What does that mean about the future? Do you like this move? Do you not like this move? NAR bringing somebody from the outside in. I like that component for sure. 203-548-0417, 203-548-0417. If you have an immediate reaction to this breaking news, you're welcome to call in 203-548-0417. The number is flashing down below. We had a call from Jason Haber earlier. Jason is the founder and leader of the NAR Accountability Project. Jason shared with us that his contacts in Chicago, where he just led a protest outside of NAR just a month ago, his contacts in Chicago say that Nikia Wright is a well-qualified executive. We know now that she has led Chicago Sun-Times, the Tribune, for 5 years as CEO. She's highly respected as a professional in Chicago. Chicago's important because that's where NAR is. And for everything he gathers is there's going to be, it comes as a shock to many, but that she's highly qualified and there's going to be support for her. We have a caller on the line.
Hello.
Hello. Name and where you calling from?
I'm Kelly with Keller Williams, and I am from Orange County, California.
All right, Kelly from Orange County with Keller Williams. Kelly, your reaction to this news? Do we still have Kelly? I can't hear her. Kelly, are you still there with us?
I think it's great.
Oh, go ahead. Love your reaction.
I'm sorry. While I think it's great also to have somebody from outside of the association, I think it's important to understand how they feel about realtors. You know, what's their impression of realtors? Because I think somebody within the industry, not the association, somebody within the industry is going to tell that message about what we do for consumers.
Yeah, so
NAR obviously has failed at that miserably.
Would agree with you. Agree with you there. NAR has not told that story well. Maybe this is why the hire of Nikia Wright makes total sense. Time will obviously tell on that, but she has a media background, which means she has been able to articulate stories and get them out there in the past. Now, the only quote that we have from Nikia, we've seen her change her LinkedIn profile. The only quote we have is that NAR advocates for and empowers people who help families across America realize the dream of home ownership. Didn't say agents or realtors there, just said people. I am honored to join the organization at this important moment when the opportunity to make a difference in the evolving real estate landscape has never been greater. I look forward to getting to work and partnering closely with NAR's talented staff in the months ahead. So I'm not going to, this is a canned quote. This is a first quote. I'm not going to judge her on a quote. She didn't mention anything about members, realtors, or real estate agents. So how she feels in the past about real estate agents, Kelly, we just don't know, but you bring up a point. What are your feelings about real estate agents? What was your feelings on the lawsuits? What were your real personal feelings? And don't influence them now on the bag that you were just awarded by NAR to be named CEO. What were those feelings? I'd love to do a town hall with Nikia Wright. I'd love for Jason to invite her into the BAM world. Jason and I could do a town hall. Maybe get that information over to Jason Haber. I'd love to do a town hall right here. Hit the thumbs up button if you'd be in right now for a Nikia Wright town hall on BAM. I can't imagine NAR handlers giving her the ability to do that. And this is what worries me. Is she going to have the ability, the authority to make the moves necessary? Is she going to be able to do that? Kelly from Keller Williams over there in Orange County. Thanks for calling. And what's your Instagram profile?
KTurbyville.kwre.
Awesome. Love for some folks to go follow you there. Thanks for the call in. Thanks for the call in, Kelly. All right. Any final reactions? We'd love to take them. We talked to Jason Haber. His reaction was brilliant. He broke it down from his insider information in Chicago. He's boots on the ground in Chicago just a month ago. Jason, yes, let's get Nikia. Let's do a town hall right here on BAM. If she comes from a media background, she should get that. And if they say no, I would imagine it's not her saying no. I would imagine it's them being the swamp of NAR. Okay. For lack of a better phrase, NAR has a history of swampish results. See this week. But I will ping you, Jason, offline. Guys, go follow Jason, by the way. On Instagram, it's Jason Heber. I think we can post that. Yeah. It's just Jason Heber on Instagram. Go follow him. Get onto the NAR Accountability Project. There's Jason's Instagram right there. I love when Jason calls in like he did earlier on this live stream, shares his insight. It's fascinating. You know, he's not collecting a fee for doing everything he can to hold NAR accountable. Let's continue to give him the support. I see a comment there from Michelle. NAR is embarrassing. NAR certainly makes a knee-jerk reaction. They've made multiple knee-jerk reactions as of late. They don't tend to think these through. But this particular decision on the face is starting to make sense to me. I'm starting to make a lot of sense of this. I want somebody outside in. Check. Nikki, you're right. Outside in. I want somebody who can change, not just the image, though. And this is where I have questions. She can change the image of NAR, maybe. Okay, maybe there's a check mark there because she's got experience in media. I really like outside in, but I want somebody to change the inner workings. And I have questions. Do you have the full authority to do that? Or is Bob Goldberg now as senior executive consultant pulling strings? With everything going on, what do we do to move forward? I have an 11-point plan on what to do in the aftermath of this class action lawsuit. The 11-point plan just released today. It's absolutely free. There's a link down below. It's in the comments. So I put together this 11-point plan on what agents should do immediately now following this class action lawsuit. Completely free 11-point plan. I will be going through the 11-point plan tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific on BAMX. So I'm going to take, in our BAMX community, I'm going to take your questions. I'm going to go through examples on the 11-point plan. I'm going to answer every single scenario that I lay out on the 11-point plan. Discount to BAMX would be hot. You get 10% off. It's coffee money. It's an unbelievable experience. Go use code HOT to get into BAMX so you can join me on that live stream tomorrow at 3 o'clock as I break down the 11-point plan. The 11-point plan's available for everybody. It's just down below. You can access that easily. All right. Bob Goldberg out as CEO. We're going to sign off here. Nikia Wright is in as interim CEO. I'm going to reach out to Jason Haber offline. I'd love to do a town hall with Nikia. Let me know if you want to be, if you want that town hall to happen, hit the thumbs up on this video. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell to this channel. Because as we've shown you this week, when things break, we're going to break right there with you in real time, react in real time to this information. So just as we did when the verdict was released earlier this week, we're going to break on this channel. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the notification bell. We had this information before anybody, before NAR announced it. We announced it today on the hot sheet when we were live at 9:30. We go live on this channel, if you're new to the BAM channel, every day. 9:30 on the East, 6:30 on the West. Every single day when the markets are open, we're live. We're preparing you for what you need to do for your business for the future. We're preparing together. And we announced that this was a rumor that this was going to happen before anybody had it today. And then we went live immediately when it happened. So subscribe, hit the bell to the channel. If anything else breaks today, we'll be back here live. We will take your live reactions. Code HOT is available right now for the BAMX discount. It's the lowest price you're ever going to see because it's going up in December. BAMX has so much content, so many creators, so many great courses right now. And you're also going to get that live stream tomorrow when I break down the 11-point plan. Separate link, the 11-point plan, absolutely free. Grab it. It's what to do right now in the aftermath of the class action. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back here soon. Toodaloo.